Hello everyone, my name is El Parnaso and I made top 8 at YCS Lima with my favorite deck Yami, and this will be the deck profile. First, obviously the starters, so we play 3 marshmallow, 3 cupsies, 3 cookies and 3 lollipops because we are a pure version. And as our extenders we play the 1 obedience, the 1 prosperity, and only 2 engages with the Hornetrons. The reason why I didn't want to play 3 engages is because we only have 1 target in the deck and you are higher your chances of drawing the engage with the Hornet. Which I know people can say that, hey, you can just discard this for the synchro anyways. But in order to do that, first you need to get to the synchro and the synchro needs to resolve. So I need that at that point you can just put another card that can be a self-starter like Prosperity or something else, right? In my case, for example, I decided to prioritize what I like to call joker cards, which are cards that, more than just utility, they have so much different utilities depending on the scenario that they are more like jokers in poker games, you know? So for that reason, I qualify these as talents and trust. The reason why I call them jokers is because they are not only good to interact with your opponent disruptions, but there are scenarios when these two are going to become starters or extenders. For example, talents can attempt to draw 2 to dig for those other starters extenders, and trust can reach not only talents to disrupt your opponent, but prosperity, obedience, or even engage sometimes. Now, I know that some people really like to call this card not a brick. I just hate this card. It's so heavy of a brick because of the illusion of having another one whenever you draw this to become useful. It's just fantasy land for me. So I'm just playing 1 of these, even in the pure version, because I don't feel like you actually need it. Like you want to search it, but whenever you draw it, it could be something else that could have been better. For example, you can tell me that you want to draw this over prosperity, right? Okay? So the other 2 bricks, the field spells, because you need to play them. We played the other one, the crookie, because this is the pure version. If you saw, those were 22 cards. So the other rest of the deck, I wanted to focus on full hand traps, so I can make sure whenever I go first or second, I could play. So I played 3 Impermanence, 3 Dominus Purge, 3 Ash Blossom, 3 Fuwa. These were the ones that I wanted to draw the most, so I played 2 of them, because even if you draw the Fuwa going first, you can just make the Almirage and this becomes almost an extender in those scenarios. And the rest I played 2 of. It was Droll and Lockbear, Ghost Ogre, and the Gospel. The reason why I decided to prioritize these 2 is because I expected a lot of mirror matches. And I think the approach whenever you can draw a hand trap going second as a 6 card and it can be still useful is really important for the mirror match. And these 2 are almost the only ones that can do that, besides, for example, the Fuwa that you are already playing 3 of. However, I didn't want to make a big investment on that. I think 4 was the right number for the main deck. And that is why I decided to use these 2 as a meta call because I saw that there were a lot of people here in Peru and generally in other countries pushing for the Mitsurugi engine, whether it's pure, whether it's with Rizal, whether it's with even Yami. So I wanted to have some respect for those decks in the first single. Also, I think that even going in the mirror match can be all kind of useful if people don't respect it. So it wasn't the worst case scenario, even if you draw the draw in the mirror matches. And if you draw it for other matches that you were expecting in the tournament, like Luna Light, Mitsurugi, and some Peruvian random doing Peruvian decks, like this could be useful too. Also, something that you need to prioritize a lot in this deck is for your non-engine to be consistent with your Yami plays. So I wanted to prioritize not only monster that could be made into Almirage, which is why I didn't consider Nibiru, the Bestials, or Phantasme, or Izuna, because none of them can become a Link 1. But these can, like, all of these can become Almirage, even the Troll and Lockbear. And the thing with Troll and Lockbear that I like a lot is that by himself is a level 1 non-tuner, which sometimes is going to come useful for the deck. Which I did a lot, actually. Now for the extra deck, well, obviously I play two snatches, one of them is synchro, because they recycle cells, so why would you play more? For the utility synchros, I still play the two level 3 package. This one, a lot of people think was for the second herald. It has absolutely nothing to do with that. I'm going to make an individual video just for this card so people can understand the real value and why you should play this even if you don't play herald. Okay, so let's wait for that. Obviously, you have to play the herald. It's an excellent card this format. Not only that much for the negate, but for the floodgate status that it allows. Like, a lot of decks can cause things to go to the graveyard, and they need to go to the graveyard for this format, like Lunalight, Mermal, even Mitsurugi sometimes. So this card, great. Now, for these 9 are, not only these 9, I will say these are the actually only cards in US Select that matters. Like, if you only have these 7, you should be able to win regardless. Everything else is just an utility purpose. Which is why my Link ones try to focus on only that purpose. Kagari, because of the Engage engine. Almirage, which is one of the greatest links of all time. It gives so much consistency to this deck, and it helps you to play around Detonator and Murakumo sometimes. And because of the consistency, I also like to play Link Spider. A lot of people say that you only play this because of Nibiru. That's completely wrong. It's completely false. The biggest reason you're going to play this card is whenever you have the token of the Hornet Drones after you have the Kagari. So that token can still become a Link 1. There's going to be a lot of scenarios when you're pushing going second, when the first Kagari that you make and you have to use the effect to add the Hornet is going to be used for different pushes, and you're going to lose the card, the Kagari, in those pushes. So after that, for Hornet Drones to still have the versatility of become either a level 1 non-tuner or a level 1 tuner thanks to Link Spider, gives this card justified reasoning to still be in the extra deck, because the Nibiru argument for me is not enough. The actual argument for me is those versatilities of pushes whenever I go second, or even first sometimes, whenever I don't have access to the Kagari, but I still have access to the Hornet Drones. So this card, amazing. Amazing. And, well, obviously, Little Knight, amazing card. And these two that I actually never make, but I think was, like, for utility purpose, very necessary. Typhoon may sometimes in a 100 deck is going to be useful. And this one was the replace for Crush Ship, because Obedience School is only at 1 now. The scenario when you're going to make Obedience School and your opponent is going to contact see you is going to be so minimal against all other possible scenarios that the hazard is going to be better. The requirements are the same, two monsters with different names. This guy also points down, and at the end of the day, for keep pushing after contact C, you only need the arrows down. Now, an argument that I have against this card was that it's a water monster. So after you make the purge, where from the hand, you can use its effect to get rid of itself and to get a draw. But even in those worst cases, the arrow below allows you to keep playing whenever you have any kind of extender to go through contact C. So I think this card is better than the Crush, and I don't think I'm going to keep it out, because at least in Peru, you never know which people is going to decide to make the investment of going further with the tech choices and getting rid of contact C. So if people are not getting rid of contact C, you need to respect the card in the ecosystem that you're playing. Therefore, I don't think I'm gonna take this out. Hello? I don't think Nibiru will be a good choice for you. For example, yes, Nibiru could be good against Rise on Mitsurugi because you have a lot of other hunters to pair with, but Nibiru is not going to be good against decks like Mitsurugi or decks like things that you can play here in the country. So, and even more when you consider the context, like Lunalight is a cheaper deck than the other options in the meta. Also is an anime deck. A lot of people like the anime when the Lunalight came out. I can't remember the name now, but a lot of people actually like it, especially here in Peru. So it was, to me, very obvious that I was going to change more, to face more Lunalights than decks that the Nibiru care about. For example, the Rise on Ruby. And that is why I decided to prioritize the Baylor. I can Baylor the Gold Leo, I can steal Baylor in the Ryzen Mitsurugi, the Edge, the Dual Drive, or the Ice Ryzen, etc. Also, I think that I need to make a choice to respect the Malice matchup indirectly. Not enough to put the Lancias, because those were an approach directly to Malice and Luna Light, but nothing else. So I wanted to have my ratios for pattern choices after siding to have at least 4 or 5 cards at least for every matchup that I care about the most, and that is why I choose the Baylor. Yes, Baylor is not as defining when it resolves, but it's still useful. So if you can take advantage the maximum that you can from your cards, you can kind of compensate the fact that they are not high impact cards. Following that reasoning, it is why I, instead of putting the Lancias for those kind of decks that I mentioned, like Luna Light or Malice, I decided to put instead the Diddy Crow. Because yes, Diddy Crow is not as effective as Malice. You can even say that it's not effective against Malice, but that is why you have the Baylor. So you can put something against them regardless. And you still have the space for the Crows, so you can respect the Luna Lights, you can still respect the Mitsurugis, you can still respect decks. For example, one of the things that you care a lot about the Mitsurugi matchup is Murakumo resolving. And the biggest problem with Mitsurugi, especially when it's Ryzel or Pure, is that they have 2 different ways to summon the Murakumo in your turn to make the Raigeki. Because they're gonna make prayers tributing as cost the Murakumo. So you can negate the prayers because at rest, the Murakumo is going to make the effect to revive itself. But if you don't negate the prayers, then they can chain block the effects of the Murakumo and whatever they decide to revive with the prayers. Or if you're facing a really focused player that try to, avoid any kind of mistakes, they can even revive the prayers with the Murakumo to avoid any kind of shenanigans later, even though the chain blocks. In any of those scenarios, Diddy Crow takes care of the Murakumo, because if they tribute it as cost, you can just chain the Diddy Crow, they banish the Murakumo at rest, they are not going to be able to revive it with the prayers, nor to activate the Murakumo effect in graveyard to a special summon itself. So this is practically the only hand trap in the game that can interact with that combo of prayers tributing Murakumo. Ash can't, Bell can't, Purge can't, Impulse can't. Like, you need 2 combinations to try to stop that combo if you're not using the Diddy Crow. And because Murakumo is such a kind of a problem for this deck, you want to try to focus on grid. Like, Detonator is not that big of a deal. Murakumo actually is. And that is why I choose the Crow and the Baylors. I'm going to focus a lot more on this when I make the video with siding patterns, because when you see the purpose of the cards that you want to make for these specific matches, whenever you're siding, you're going to understand better why I choose this radius. Now, going second cards, I decided to play 2 Murakumos because I expected a lot of mirror matches. I also used 1 Raigeki, 1 Duster, and 1 Lightning Storm. I know this is a 3, but I actually just want to play 2 of these, but because I can't, I had to use the closest effect that I have, that's the Lightning Storm. I needed to respect some ratios for some matches that I was in, and also have something whenever, for example, I make my combo and my opponent just scoops. So I have a lot of options with a lot of different decks, even if I don't know them. Also, these cards deals with the Murakumo, for example, because you get rid of the prayers and then they don't have any way to revive it after, so there's no Raigeki. Also, because you're playing Trust, it's like you're playing 2 copies of each of these ones. And I know the image we want to whatever, but I didn't want to go have redundant resources whenever I go second, or 2 cards in my hand that I can activate together or have redundant results in the matchup. I wanted to have cards that whenever I draw them in combinations, even though they have similar purposes, they can achieve more together. For example, 2 Raigekis together don't achieve kinda the same, but 1 Raigeki and Lightning Storm achieve 2 different things that helps when you draw them together. The same with when you draw 1 Raigeki and 1 Metatronus instead of drawing 2 Metatronus, because Metatronus is once per turn. I made the exception of playing 2 Metatronus this time because I was really expecting a lot of yummy matches. And because of these reasonings of avoid redundancy in your resources, I decide to play one Pancra. This allows you, whenever going second, to have 3 different ways that can be drawn together to deal with cards of your opponent without redundancy, because even though this can make just the same as this has the chance to get rid of monsters too. So whenever you draw them together, it can actually work. And this is an interaction similar to these two, because most of the time you want to get rid of one specific card, and it allows you to do that with a monster effect. For example, that's really relevant for me in Dracoten matchups when they have the trap that can negate any of this, but that trap can interact with this. Any of the traps of the Dracoten tail matchup can interact with this one. So that way you have different way to push that answer to that demands different kind of interaction of your opponent if they want to succeed in how to approach them. And because you're making these ratios like this, if they only think of these two, they are not prepared for this one. So there's a chance that you can draw this instead of this, and you can take advantage of that. As long as the cards that you're choosing fulfill kind the same purpose, you can get away with this. I have to focus more on the video of Sidon patterns, but just wanted to say it. And the cards that I focus for going first, Call by the Grave, except in matches that this card is good going second, like Dracotail, Mitsurugi, etc. And the trap cards that I decide to play, this one as a trust target because it's really good against any matchup. I'm not that big of a fan of Dimensional Barrier. I think this card can do almost the same in most matchups and has the benefits that I can use it literally in every single matchup, as long as I know the opponent deck after single one. So this card is great. I really like it. Then I wanted to play just Anti-Spell and Solemn Judgment because a lot of people are going to side cards like Duster or Lightning for this deck, and I don't like for my side deck to not play around my opponent's side deck. So I wanted to play cards that exchange with those spells or nullify completely or ignore them completely. This card ignores those cards because I can just chain it and the effect is still applied. This can protect me for those cards, and this one nullified and punish my opponent for relying on spell cards going second against this deck. Which a lot of board breakers are, so I think this is a good choice. That is also why I like the Pancra, because it's an interaction that respect the anti-spell, for example. So if your opponent just rely on this to interact with your spell trap removals, they are not respecting this, so if you draw it, they are gonna get really punished by it, and that variance can help you a lot whenever you play. Okay, so this was my side deck. I think it was really good. I think the deck behaved almost the way it was supposed to be. I'm going to make another video also explaining my mistakes in the approach of this tournament and how I play it, and how that made the A and therefore the tournament. If you like the video and you want some more information, please subscribe and see you on the next one.